Content time. Let's get it. Oh yeah, I was supposed to watch the I was supposed to watch that one other video from Harley about just a robot. But we'll get to it once we get there.
Seriously sick of this drama.
Just give me a moment, okay? Tell me it's either yes or no. I just need a moment. It's yes. Please or go no. Upstairs. You're gonna know.
And yes, I do acknowledge that it was wrong to include a 9-year-old OC in 2 of the drawings. And if I ever
whoa.
acknowledge that it was wrong to include a 9-year-old OC in 2 of the drawings.
A 9. Oh.
And if I ever do draw NSFW again, which
just go, okay?
9-year-old NSFW in the same sentence. Nah, this motherfucker is
very dangerous. I'm in the middle of something really important. I just told you.
I also understand that some of the things I've done are genuinely unforgivable. And if you feel uncomfortable or unsafe viewing my content because of that, you don't have to stick around.
This absolute disgusting monstrosity that walks among humanity in their skins did these things to these kids and encouraged these kids.
The history of the user known as Birdie is one of the most disturbing cautionary tales to be found online. Though you may have only heard of him recently due to his friendship and fallout with the infamous animator CineBear03, his history goes far, far beyond that. Birdie's online career...
If you're gonna call someone out, stand on it and debate, because if you run away, just come back later and called out again, you deserve to be clowned on. Pretty sure, yep.
Started back in 2017 in the animation meme community on YouTube, and by age 13 he had gathered nearly 100,000 subscribers. But the sudden interest wasn't as much from art as it was the constant cycle of drama. Petty disputes between middle schooler artists, often mixed with dark adult themes, and aired out for the public to see. An entire web of depraved private roleplays, breakups, threats, doxing campaigns. And Birdie stood at the centre of this web for years, both on the receiving end of these attacks and just as much a perpetrator of it. As the years rolled by, this Lord of the Flies model only got more convoluted and extreme, and since then, no one has successfully attempted to put the story together. The accepted narrative today is that Birdie was wrongly cancelled for basically nothing. But how true does that really ring? This is the sordid history of Birdie.
Oh boy, here we go. There might be some things I don't even know about.
What we know about Birdie's...
especially that whole 9-year-old thing. Oh boy, that's gonna be some.
Life and much of the information about his family comes from Birdie's own accounts over the years. It's worth noting that throughout his online presence, he's been an incredibly unreliable narrator, with his claims about others having little to any evidence, whilst the claims against him are backed up with piles of proof. At least in this case, there's not much evidence you could really get for personal familial issues, and some of the claims against his family have been supported by his siblings. Regardless, please take what is presented with a pinch of salt. Birdie was born on September 22, 2004, to a family in the state of Washington. He was born female at birth, but later transitioned and took the name of Jack. Right from the beginning, troubles were awry, as Birdie once claimed he almost died during his birth, encountering complications. He would soon grow to become the middle child of 7 siblings, with a few of them even being wrapped up into Birdie's online antics, most particularly his younger sister Alvina. If the sheer number of siblings that Birdie has alarms you, it may be because Birdie describes his parents as being obsessed with sexual topics, along with being conservative, Trump-supporting racist, sexist, homophobes, transphobes, anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists. Not all these claims can be confirmed, and it really seems like rattling off a checklist, but we can say with some certainty that Birdie's mom is a definite nutjob. Pictures from a public Facebook account show her obsession with private parts, as she even kept glass statues of them around the house.
Okay.
Many view this as a reason why, as you'll soon see, Birdie was discussing adult topics, including sexual ones, in a really descriptive and often violent manner at a young age.
Her mom has an obsession with sex and that. She also collects glass V. Wow, he has lived in a fucked up childhood. Wow. Wow.
Birdie's mother also had a relationship with a different man before meeting Birdie's father, and at some point before 2021, apparently cheated on him with two other men for foreskin pictures, causing a definite rift in his parents.
What?
Apparently cheated on him with two other men for foreskin pictures.
Cheated on him for foreskin pictures? Oh, God.
Causing a definite rift in his parents' relationship. Birdie explained that his parents fought pretty often and almost separated in 2018. We know that they weren't well off, even aside from relationship struggles, considering that his mom never had a job and his dad quit his job at Taco Bell at some point when Birdie was living with them. Because of this, it's likely the family is just living off benefits. Something that adds to this idea is that Birdie's mom would supposedly give bad reviews to psychologists who wouldn't diagnose her children with the disability she wanted, such as autism, and kept changing doctors until she got satisfactory results. It's possible she was looking for a specific diagnosis so that the family could qualify for more benefits. Because of this, it puts into question the things Birdie was diagnosed with as a child. Now, Birdie has directly accused his parents of abuse. However, what's real and what's fake is really hard to discern. Birdie's definition of it extends.
Yeah, you know, it's especially when it really just comes down to still having contact with his family, even after he left his family. So, I mean, you just can't write this shit.
Stems from "they turned my Wi-Fi off" to alleging physical, verbal, and sexual wrongdoing, which the parents have denied. It's hard to tell whether they were too harsh that they pushed Birdie away to the internet, or too passive by letting him run free on it. At times, they did genuinely take Birdie offline because they knew something was wrong. However, Birdie seems to paint them out as utter psychopaths who would even watch videos that people made about him on the living room TV. Forgive me for not believing that. It's likely the parents were neglective to a certain degree. Some of Birdie's siblings have stated the same, and CPS has been called on the house a few times. The parents are definitely not completely innocent. When it comes to Birdie's schooling, you'd think the string of bad luck would have ended there, but it turns out that not only were his parents abusive, but also apparently his teachers were as well. Due to his diagnosis of autism and issues functioning in a regular classroom, Birdie was in a sort of special classroom from ages 9 to 11. He claims that during this time, his teachers would lock him in an empty isolation room, similar to sensory deprivation. From not doing anything when he tried to choke on his hair, to being careless and giving him bruises and scratches whilst restraining him, Birdie pretty much describes his teachers as awful people, and even had plans to kill them. Plans that went so far that the police apparently got involved, and that would not be the only time. According to Birdie, when he was around 11 years old, he went on a rampage destroying his sister's bedroom, ripping things apart and such. His parents then retaliated by attacking him, and Birdie defended himself by attacking his father with a fork and drawing blood. The main thing that stays consistent.
And you think that Birdie should have an online presence? He doesn't need a YouTube channel. He needs extensive therapy. Extensive therapy. That's not funny. Wow. That is a ton of fucked up shit. I mean, like, obviously when people go through trauma and shit like that, you know, usually, you know, they just get some form of help. You know, they get friends and shit like that can, like, take them away from that. No, like, apparently Birdie just radicalized off of it and just became a bad person. You know, scamming a bunch of people, using his friends to do whatever he wants, do his work. You know, all sorts of fucked up shit, grooming, fucking a ferret. I mean, you just can't feel bad about this person at all. Like, literally at all. And the fact that he never took any true accountability for his actions too. Like, it's kind of crazy, man. I mean, it's fucked up what he's going through allegedly, but it's like, I don't know. You got some good ass friends, and you're taking advantage of them. So, I mean, like I said, I don't. All that shit that he's been going through, and for some reason he decides, oh yeah, let me just make a fucking YouTube channel, just, you know, grow an audience out of that shit. It's therapy. Therapy is what he needs.
With the story is the use of a fork as a weapon, and its presence was stretched to him rebranding his channel in 2019 to be around forks. This whole fork stabbing incident led to Birdie being in police custody again, where he had to wait inside the back of a police car for an extended period of time, along with required therapy used to treat personality disorders. Aside from these two particular instances, Birdie's sister Alvina claims that as early as 2nd grade, when Birdie would have been 6 years old, he was already hitting the other children, and when he was 9 he tried to suffocate Alvina herself, despite him saying he viewed her as his favourite sibling.
View her as his favorite sibling, and you tried to kill him. Wow.
It's worth noting that Birdie denies his accusations from Alvina, but like I said, he has a history of lying. This is likely why Birdie was not allowed in a regular school setting. I'm no psychologist, so I can't say anything definitive about this all, but I think it's clear that Birdie has been unstable since he was a child. However, it's also worth noting that despite growing up in these same conditions, none of Birdie's siblings turned out the same way. It's a big thought of nature versus nurture. All this information about Birdie's childhood
And guidance. Don't forget about guidance.
It comes from a variety of sources, including himself, his siblings, and his parents. It's likely the truth is a blend of a lot of these claims. During the time Birdie was in school, he would begin to look for distractions in the form of the internet. His dad had recently bought him his own laptop, and taught him the basics of MS Paint. On August 23rd, 2015, the Birdie YouTube channel was created, and it would begin posting soon after. But initially, the channel didn't go under the name of Birdie or anything related to that. It was first called Foxy Lover 87, reflecting his love over the at the time brand new indie game Five Nights at Freddy's, and one of its characters, Foxy the Pirate. The uploads from this time were usually low-quality drawings of FNAF or My Little Pony characters on MS Paint, along with the occasional video of Birdie playing with toys from around the house. On the surface, it all seemed pretty normal for a kid his age. If you were to come across his videos from around then, they may even come off as cute and charming. However, when recounting this time in his life, Birdie talks about the darker side of his unrestricted and unmonitored time on the internet, adding that even back then, he tended to have fantasies of non-consensual nature about Foxy. This is obviously alarming and foreshadows a history of degenerate behaviour. The only real impact this time had on Birdie's channel though, was that he would make one of his first original characters, a recolor of Chica from FNAF with a blue and yellow colour scheme, called Polly. This would grow to be Birdie's main character, and where the name Birdie came from. Eventually, at some point in 2016, Birdie grew to have a new interest that became the focal point of his channel and led to his early success. Like FNAF, this interest would be on a new indie game, one widely praised and adored on the internet, called Undertale. His love of the game went from viewing two of the game's characters, Sans and Papyrus, as imaginary friends that he would feed and take care of at school, and went all the way to viewing Sans as his boyfriend. With all the animations and the specific focus of adoration on one character, Birdie had become part of an online phenomena of fangirling, specifically being a fangirl of Sans from Undertale. There was a mini fandom of people who shipped themselves with the character and animated themselves with him in various romantic ways. This fandom was a subdivision of the much larger animation meme community, a community based around making short, usually repetitive animations to clips of music. However, the Sans fangirl mini-fandom was actually predominantly ironic, made to make fun with kids obsessed with characters, as this was around the time where cringe culture was at its peak. Because of this, most accounts in the community were trolls, and the few who weren't tended to clash with the rest. Birdie and his friends would often receive and send killing videos, a phenomenon in the community where Sans fangirls would kill each other for his love.
When I was around that age, I just watched Dragon Ball. I just watched Dragon Ball, Seven Deadly Killer Kill Naruto. I watched Dashi Games and shit. What the fuck was the killing? What?
Despite this, Birdie continued posting about his love for Undertale and managed to make a good amount of fans and friends through his art and kind character. On the 30th of November 2016, Birdie joined the now dead Google+, where most of the early information about him comes from. This would be Birdie's equivalent of Twitter, which he used extremely often throughout late 2016 and all of 2017. This was the main outlet for Birdie to communicate with his audience, including sharing more concerning sexual fantasies about Sans, just like he did for Fox.
Yeah, saying little girls went crazy over Sans back then. I did not know it was this crazy. It's just a skeleton head with a jacket and a pants and apparently slides with slippers. And it went crazy over that shit. I mean, sure. Fucking Christ.
Foxy. Though most often he would use his Google Plus to vent to his audience. Much of the venting at first was about the hate he received online and how lonely he was, leading to many posts about him wanting to not be here anymore, if you get what I mean, all while he was just 12. However, these posts eventually turned to being about relationship troubles once Birdie started e-dating. Birdie's first recorded relationship was with another artist named Rosie the Rose in January of 2017, and the 3-month relationship mostly consisted of romantic drawings and posts. At some point, the Rosie account went inactive and stopped posting, leading to Birdie expressing his sadness and hurt on his Google Plus account. Once he got back into contact with Rosie, he was told that her account had gone inactive because she had gotten into a car crash and was in a coma, leading to Birdie posting about praying for her to get better and even making an animation about it. Eventually, Rosie came back online, although what her explanation was in regards to the coma thing has not been archived. Shortly after this, Rosie claimed that she was going to have her electronics taken away in late March. Taking a step back though, nowadays we know that Rosie the Rose was never actually a real person. It was in fact a persona from a friend who had come out as non-binary to Birdie in 2016, and at the time Birdie did not understand or support the idea of that. So to take revenge, they made an entire account with a relationship with Birdie and a fake coma. Due to this entire failed relationship, along with the amount of hate Birdie had received, he began to take a step away from the Sans fangirl community, setting many of his Undertale related videos in private, and getting rid of the Undertale reference in his username, feeling as if the whole community was ruined for him. This led to him entering the general animation meme community under the simple name of Birdie. The relationship between Birdie and Rosie officially ended in April of 2017, despite the fact that Rosie had been inactive since March. I guess Birdie was just waiting for her to return. The reason for it ending though, is because Birdie began to take interest in someone new, someone who would become a big player in Birdie's first real drama.
Oh boy.
By the time Birdie had transitioned out of being a
Niggly DeVito. Dope.
fangirl, his YouTube channel had already grown to over 4,000 subscribers, and this change of appealing to the outer animation community instead of just Sans fangirls proved to only increase his subscriber count. Birdie was gaining traction at a rate rarely seen before for people of his age, and at least at this point of time, it was because of his genuine talent in art. However, due to his rapid growth at such a young age, it wasn't long until Birdie found himself in hot water. He obviously struggled with using his platform responsibly, still tending to use it as a place to vent out his private issues, but now with over quadruple the audience as compared to when he was airing out his issues with Rosie. I'm sure how you could see this quickly becoming a problem. The first real drama Birdie found himself in started out pretty innocently, when in March of 2017, around the time he was struggling with thinking that Rosie was in the hospital, he looked for videos to comfort him. He eventually stumbled across another animator that went by the name of Kitty Dog. Like Birdie, Kitty Dog was an animator who was popular in the animation meme community, and soon Birdie found himself binge watching her videos. According to him, they were the only things that made him feel better at the time, and gave him the ever so needed comfort he was looking for. It wasn't long until he began posting about Kitty Dog to his audience, starting out pretty normally with comments like, "I'm gonna watch Kitty Dog's first video," or "I stayed up all night watching Kitty Dog," average tween fan behavior. But over time, Birdie began adjusting his art style to look more and more like Kitty Dog's and making fan videos. Then it moved to posts referencing his love for Kitty Dog in the next month. He made an entire alternate account dedicated to his love for her. His obsession with Kitty Dog only grew and grew and grew over the next few weeks, and so did his possessive nature. Birdie was only one in an array of Kitty Dog fangirls who adored Kitty Dog in the same kind of way. But unlike most people in fandoms who unite on their love for something, Birdie despised every way. But unlike
Mario voice. I'm gonna kill you. What the fuck? Is these what motherfuckers be on back in 2017? Oh my god. When I was a kid, I was not this obsessed with someone else. Fucking facts, yo. Even like back, like, I know I did some fucked up shit back then. Like simping and stuff, but not to this extent. Like this whole shit. This motherfucker is terminally online. Holy shit.
Like most people in fandoms who unite on their love for something, Birdie Dog in the same kind of way. But
you were kidnapped. The 11th picture in your gallery is your kidnapper.
trying to take away his true love, so to speak. The Kitty Dog obsession reached its boiling point in an infamous video on May 21st, 2017, posted by Birdie and titled Pretty Little Psycho. In this video, Birdie is animated killing other so-called Kitty Dog fangirls, and it blew up for all the wrong reasons. The animation was certainly great for Birdie's age, but the idea that obsession over someone to the point of animating killing others was cringy and weird to the general public.
They just need to take away her fucking Christ.
Several people saw this and made parodies and cringe compilations, some of them being the Kitty Dog fangirls themselves, who had done literally nothing to get this unwarranted attack. So why such hostility from Birdie? Well, one piece of information that was mostly hidden from the public at the time was that Birdie and Kitty Dog were in a relationship of sorts. They were friends behind the scenes and would often discuss sexual topics and draw NSFW of each other's characters. This adds a lot to explain Birdie's outburst against these fangirls, and his emotions being obviously motivated by much more going on than anyone knew. Kitty Dog herself never said anything publicly at the time regarding Birdie's whole situation, and issues only arose with her after she said that she wasn't really interested in Birdie anymore, and Birdie hated her. The two would be on and off over the next year or so, especially with Kitty Dog later making NSFW of Birdie when he wasn't comfortable with it. After the whole Kitty Dog situation, Birdie would make another alt account of his.
Oh no. Poor ferret. Poor fucking ferret. Oh no. No. Poor ferret. You didn't deserve the abuse that you're about to receive. Oh no.
And decide to date it. That one being named Churro the Ferret, similar to his real pet ferret Chara. Birdie's next relationship was with a person who is.
And Birdie claims that's grooming, of course. Of course he claims that.
Going to become integral throughout this entire thing. A young 11-year-old animator by the name of Fontic, known later as Heimguts. Fontic was someone who'd been known by Birdie from back when they had less than 500 subscribers, and back then they seemed to be fighting. But as they came into contact here, Fontic was a staunch fan and defender of Birdie during his controversy with Kitty Dog. The two began dating as Birdie wanted Fontic to be their new Kitty Dog, and their relationship seemed normal, but Birdie's eye was already drifting towards another animator by the name of Sleepykin, or Twisted Doctor, one of the biggest in the animation meme community at the time. Just like with Kitty Dog, the obsession with Sleepykin started from watching videos, and they soon became mutuals, but unlike Kitty Dog, the two never really had any meaningful interactions with each other. It's strange then that Birdie's feelings towards him were arguably more explicit, as seen by the Chicken Brent Does Not Approve alternate account, accessible only by Birdie and Fontic. Birdie would upload tons of sexual fantasies and NSFW art with his character and Sleepykin's characters, a fair few of them venturing into the topic of SA. Birdie's obsession with Sleepykin didn't even have private DMs to add sufficient context. It was out of nowhere and plain creepy, as seen from the drawings, and we probably wouldn't have learnt of it had it not been leaked to the public. Sometime in early August, Birdie's Chicken Brent account was leaked and sent.
If he wasn't comfortable with that Kitty Dog, then he should have said something. It's weird, but is it grooming? No. Exactly. Like, he just wants to play victim so fucking much. Like, it's just crazy how someone like this even like comes about. If you're not comfortable with some shit, say something. Otherwise, you're just going to enable this shit and just use that as oh, he did this or she did that. Like, bro, like, you enabled it. You enabled it. It's not their fault. It's your fault for not saying shit. Like, the fuck?
Around. First to Sleepykins' at the time boyfriend, and then to the man himself. The leaker, none other than Fontic. After growing increasingly hurt and jealous at Birdie's love for Sleepykin more than him, and saddled by peer pressure, he decided to forward the account to an anti-Birdie Discord server. It wasn't long before Sleepykin commented on the account publicly, asking Birdie to please stop this and that it's really weird to make drawings like this that trivialize SA. This entire thing would then erupt in the animation meme community as a major piece of drama, and Birdie eventually apologized. Quick little side note, I mentioned the distributors of the leaks as entire anti-Birdie servers made against a 13-year-old animator. Birdie's controversies, fights with critics, general cringy videos, and his delightful mentions of murder and SA in his work had all formed into a collective hatred for him. Some of this came from active groups, others came from a genre of videos known as Birdie rants, featuring kids around Birdie's age making videos with terrible microphones criticizing Birdie's actions.
Hey guys, I'm here to talk about lovely Birdie doll. So, I just really need to put something out in the world that she's done. I don't want to be subscribed to a kitty dog copy because, like, that's boring, okay? I love Kitty Dog, I watch Kitty Dog all the time, but then when there's two kitty dogs, I'm not gonna watch both.
If you really don't believe that all this was popular back then, consider that Birdie rant videos around this time would consistently get tens of thousands of views, and this was the quality of it. Again, it shows that not only were the critics Birdie's age, but so was the audience.
Hello, it is Zur the Freaky here. So, I'm gonna do a rant against these two animators. If you know me, you probably see me comment on their videos a lot. It's Kitty Dog and Birdie. Personally, this is not based off any jealousy. Trust me, why would I want to be jealous of those guys?
Over the rest of the year, Birdie and Fontic's friendship wavered between love and hatred. They fought with each other after the leak, but later mended their issues and dated again in October 2017. Their dating ended in December, when Fontic broke it off because he felt he was straight, and in response, Birdie made a new channel named Strawberrix. On this channel, he would post vents about Fontic, creepy posts, threats, Fontic's face docs, and incredibly violent fantasies about tearing Fontic's guts out.
Oh no, this person should never get a YouTube channel. This person should never get a YouTube channel. Dreaming about tearing Fontic's guts out.
To add to that, Birdie also made a series named Torturing Birdie about his obsession with Fontic, the first of many. All this harassment led to Fontic deleting his YouTube channel and temporarily retreating from the public eye. You might imagine all this drama and Birdie's reputation being buried in the dirt would have dragged on his subscriber count. But no, in fact it caused more people to subscribe and tune in for the chaos. Birdie's animations and potential as a young artist was a springboard, but the location that he had launched himself into was completely unknown territory. By December 2017,
He's worse than Raven? Oh my god. Saying he's worse than Raven is like saying, bro, it's like you're literally comparing Coughing Baby to a hydronic bomb. Or hydrogen bomb. It's like comparing those two. Not even comparable. Like Birdie is on some shit, bro. And all this shit when he was like, what, like 13, 14, 15? Around those age? Like, fucking Christ, man. Like, you couldn't just, like, watch anime and some shit? Yeah, they're not comparable at all, bro. Raven Starshine is, like, something, but Birdie is, like, a whole case of just fuck, dude. Like, at this fucking point, his whole channel needs to be deleted. He doesn't deserve it. fucking insane.
2017, he was nearing 100,000 subscribers.
Wait, what?
All territory. By December 2017, he was nearing 100,000 subscribers, all gained within 1 year, a rate of growth never seen before, especially for someone who only turned 13 in September of that year. It was a recipe for disaster. During the start of 2018, two more significant players would enter the Birdie drama scene. Whereas Fontic began life as a stalker Birdie fan, DogeJust was the complete opposite, starting out as a hater of Birdie who ran animation projects about killing his character. However, over time they began to warm to Birdie and then began a relationship with him. This one wouldn't last long. DogeJust says that he went into the relationship because he felt pity. So to get out of it, he faked ending it all, with the assistance of Fontic. DogeJust and Fontic would become friends from then onwards, and DogeJust also threatened and doxed Birdie. If you're wondering, this is the person who Birdie's talking about in an infamous livestream he did when his mom confronted him on why he'd given their address out.
Could you go upstairs? I'm in the middle of something. Mom, go away.
No, I want to know.
Please.
On Discord.
I'm in the middle of something.
I want to know.
I'm...
Give our address to somebody.
Shut.
Did you?
There are people here.
I need to know if you did that.
I will tell you after this stream,
No,
okay?
not after now.
Mom, just...
Dad's up there right
there
now.
are people watching this.
I need to know if you gave our address to anybody on the internet. Just answer the question.
Why do you need to know?
Did you or didn't you?
Why do you need to know?
That is against the rules of our internet.
It was a long time ago.
When
I don't know, but it was a
I
long
need
time
to
ago.
know.
Could you please go
the
upstairs?
internet dad's shutting it off right now.
Hold on!
Yeah, no, you should just... See, if Birdie was black, if Birdie had a black family, boy, let me tell you something, they would snatch that shit out of him, bro. They would snatch every electronic device out of him, bro. Boy, let me tell you, if he had a black family, boy, he would have been fucked. He would have been fucked. He would have... I don't even want to say too much, but like...
With me.
Wait.
Did you give our address to anybody?
Oh, this is...
You ain't never lied, Sane. Damn straight.
I said just give me a moment, okay?
Tell me it's either yes or no.
Mom, I just need a moment.
It's
Go.
yes
Please
or
go
no.
upstairs. You're gonna know.
It's yes
People
or no.
are watching this.
And if you did, we call the police right now, and they're gonna come take all this.
Mom,
That's
you
illegal.
go.
That's
You
illegal.
go.
Tell me if you did.
Mom, just one moment.
You did,
Please.
didn't you? The truth.
One moment.
Just tell me.
Please.
You're not understanding.
No, you don't.
Our
It wasn't
rules.
recently at
How
all. It
long
was a long.
ago?
How am I supposed to know? It was a long time ago. I don't know.
I want you to finish talking to your friends, and then you come upstairs and talk to Dad and I.
No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I
you
need
gave our last name away,
That's enough.
and now our
Go
address.
upstairs. I don't.
Don't.
That's enough. Go upstairs. I need to deal with what the fuck. Oh my god, boy. Let me tell you, if she had a black family, yo, she would have got a whooping. Yo, she would have got a whooping, bro. They would have gotten the belt or one of those plastic wooden spoons. Wooden spoon and just beat the shit out of him with that. Nah, bro. He better be lucky he ain't born black. He ain't born black, cause boy, let me tell you, he would have been fucked.
Just go, okay?
In an unrelated situation around this time, Birdie's private NSFW drawings of his character Polly were leaked in March 2018. Again, rather than concern
that's
about
just
Birdie's
fucking
behaviour at
creepy.
this age, the leak instead sparked up accusations of pedophilia towards Birdie, considering that he had said his character was 9 years old. Others accused Birdie of being an attention seeker and purposefully
Why would he age his character to 9 years old in this type of scenario? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
leaking this to fulfill that. Tons of messages were brought up of Birdie being into SA and using it as a franchise backstory for his characters, even lowering the
S.A. Gore, his character being 9 years old. Wow. 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 Wow.
Character's age to purposefully sexualize it. The community-wide perspective was now one of keeping away from Birdie and not giving him anything. The other new player inside Birdie's story was Toxikai, a 17-year-old edgy doxer who was threatening to take down the entire animation meme community. Birdie and Toxikai entered a relationship in early 2018, which was most likely grooming considering the 4-year age difference. Unfortunately, nobody in the community at the time would pick up on the relationship's problematic nature, and Birdie ended up being the one criticized for dating Toxikai instead of anyone worrying about Birdie being taken advantage of. 2 days after Birdie and Toxikai broke up, Birdie's channel of 98,000 subscribers was flagged down and terminated. 2 years of work, a meteoric rise rarely ever seen, and it was all gone. Toxikai certainly played a part in this, and was the one to start flagging Birdie's channel first, but Birdie also suspected Dojust and Fontic to be involved. Apparently at some point, Toxikai stopped flagging the channel, but Dojust wouldn't stop, and was the one to result in the channel eventually being terminated. Because of Birdie's channel termination, most of the big players in the community took Toxikai's immature threat of taking down the community pretty seriously, resulting in people temporarily setting all their videos to private. Birdie soon repurposed the Strawbricks channel into his new main account, which is still the case to this day. He'd quickly build his subscriber count back up due to his loyal fanbase, but his momentum was pretty much stunted by personal drama, and wouldn't recover. Over the next few months of 2018, Birdie and Fontic, or Heimguts as I'll be referring to him onwards, would repair their friendship and begin dating on and off on Discord. They'd get back together and break up twice in 2 months, and Birdie started to become obsessed with Heimguts, but his obsession was unlike anything seen before.
Okay, what's with this creepy ass shit, bro?
Rather than the NSFW art we've seen before and allusions to SA, Birdie's obsession with Heimguts reached a new level. The constant breaking up and getting back together certainly didn't help, but this was beyond a toxic relationship. Look no further than the private comic that Birdie made about Heimguts, titled IDMT, or I Dropped My Tortilla. This is unironically a comic about Birdie asking the devil to get Heimguts to love him. The plot details everything from breaking into Heim's house and essaying him, to failing to drug him with a love potion and f***ing him again, getting jailed for it this time.
Holy shit.
The story ends with Birdie breaking out and kidnapping Heimguts, putting him in a secret underground room for weeks, and then putting drugs in his food that make him pass out, so he could him for as long as he wants.
Oh my god. Mind you, all this shit, this is when Birdie was a minor. I mean, it just doesn't get any more wild than this, man. Like, you can't write this.
As dark and almost absurd as this was, it appears to be an expression of real feelings from Birdie, as per a timeline he made of his opinion of Heimguts. See that the lines constantly switch back and forth between wants dead and wants to /kidnap /stalk, but is limited. Now obviously these are ideas that no normal child of Birdie's age would be having, and it's perhaps no surprise that outside factors impacted this. For 2 months in 2018, Birdie was groomed by a man in his late 20s who went under the name of Maddie. They initially met due to claim that they had information on Toxikai, and from then on entered a pretty terrible relationship. Another man in their 20s by the name of Garbage also made a huge impact and encouraged Birdie to be as degenerate as they wanted. This culminated in probably Birdie's most infamous incident to date. After waiting until his family were out of the house, he attempted to his pet ferret Chara. Chara was a pet
Okay, alright, what?
Until his family were out of the house, he attempted to his pet ferret Chara.
He attempted to rape his pet ferret. What?
Chara was a pet that Birdie's family had received when she was only 1 year old, and had quickly become Birdie's most treasured pet. He would make accounts with Chara's name and drew her as a character in his videos.
What the fuck? Oh, so that's what the abuse thing came from. You just chuck a toy at him. Oh my god.
Which makes this event all the more worse. It's worth noting that whilst this event with Chara has become infamous for those who have only dug a little into Birdie's history, there were heavy outside influences, and there are bad things that Birdie has done to his ferret that he's much more responsible for. IDMT was not the only
I may either gain that fear from me being manipulated by a pedophile or my dad yelling at me, but who knows? I mean, a ferret, like you're just abusing it, chucking a toy at him. Like what the fuck is wrong with you, man?
The indication of a seriously deranged obsession that Birdie had with Heimguts. Over the months, as there were more breakups, Birdie began to reach cartoonish stalker levels. For a decent while, he had a shrine dedicated to Heimguts in his bedroom, with its centerpiece being a printed picture of Heim's face that he taped to the wall and talked to every day. Birdie also sewed several plushies of Heimguts characters to cuddle with, and aspired to one day infuse them with Heim's saliva or blood. There were plenty of dreams that Birdie had about Heimguts, including various fantasies about SA. Birdie also had a folder about Heimguts on his laptop, consisting of 2,000 plus items, like pictures of Heimguts and DMs they had together. Birdie also doxed Heim to others, knew what he was doing was disgusting and sometimes relished in it, and actively manipulated the situation to his advantage. Whenever Heimguts would get a glimpse of his psychotic machinations, and obviously broke up, being freaked out, Birdie admitted that he would use his friends to manipulate Heim into saying that he's changed.
And the same thing applies to recent times. Birdie, you're a fucking piece of shit.
Almost like lulling him into a false sense of security. This got to the point that the two almost met each other during Thanksgiving, but thankfully that fell apart. Birdie's world had become solely attached to the internet and the people on there, even if they had terrible intentions in their minds, and his attachment would be proven in a stream to YouTube on July 30th, 2018. During the late hours, Birdie was streaming and going well past his bedtime. His dad noticed this, came in and told him to turn off the computer. Birdie refused, and his dad threatened to turn off the internet for the night if he didn't go to sleep.
Well, maybe if I had my computer in my room.
That's not gonna happen, and we could still hear you upstairs.
Well, can you, like, not come in here because you're gonna cause drama?
You can be on if you're talking during the day, but not at night. It's 3 in the morning.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. 2:45, it's 3 in the morning. I think you control the time.
Dad, stop! You're gonna make someone hate me!
Well, it would be fine because you won't be on the internet.
That sounds like a your problem.
If you cut off the internet, I'm gonna myself. You know that.
In present time, Birdie has gone on to provide more context for this, saying that he believed his dad was going to turn off the internet forever, not just for the night, and that affected him because his whole life was on the internet. But as others saw this, it was a direct confirmation that Birdie would threaten his life just to get what he wanted, and his behaviour since then wouldn't help, especially when it came to the incident that ultimately destroyed his positive relationship with Heimguts. According to sources who are more biased towards Heim, Birdie was in their friend group chat with Heim, Dodgedust and a few others, and expressing intentions to end it all. The others tried to help him, but he went quiet and stopped saying anything, so everyone just left. If he wasn't engaging with it, he was probably baiting for something. Birdie then posted an event apparently painting everyone in the group chat as just evil, and it completely tore the group chat apart. In response to this, Dodgedust raided Birdie's Discord server, before then breaking into his DeviantArt account and vandalizing it with LeBron James Sprite Cranberry memes and cringy roleplays. The account would be renamed to Sprite Cranbirdie, a name he kept for quite a while actually. Birdie would get his account back and accuse Heimguts of being involved in the hack with no evidence other than proximity. And despite multiple people telling him and proving that Heimguts wasn't involved, he still kept up the lie. This prompted Heim and Dodgedust to post an entire Google Drive and change.org petition on the 21st of December 2018, alongside...
You know what his family should have done? Turn the internet off. They should have just turned the internet off. This is fucked, dude.
Had a low quality stream on the Dodgedust channel. The drive mainly aims to prove that Birdie's constant obsession had made Heimguts completely stressed, to the point of being sent to a mental hospital. Inside it documents many of the obsessive things that Birdie had said about Heimguts, and much of what we've already seen in this segment. The publication of this drive seemed reasonable to the public, and as they saw it, Birdie's behaviour here was disgusting and lined up with past actions. But despite posting an entire Google Drive and change.org petition, as well as a stream, and claiming that Birdie's actions sent
I'm slowly becoming more and more violent and more S, and it's not fucking okay. But I'm terrified of therapy, and I'm terrified of talking to my parents, and I don't know what what to fucking do anymore. I don't want to hurt someone. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt anything. Yeah, no, that thing needs to be turned off. Because yeah, no, this is what happens when you don't have friends in real life. And you find friends on the internet. This is what happens when you don't have friends in real life. Like, you need friends in real life. You need some good fucking friends in real life. Birdie found that shit and still took advantage of that. It just comes to a point where people just should have just gotten a better childhood, or maybe his parents should have done a better job parenting him, because this is just fucked, dude.
To a mental hospital, the two of them got back together on the 25th of December. This relationship between Birdie and Heimguts is the last one they had, and it was explicitly sexual between both of them. Heimguts would be completely invested with Birdie's obsessive creations like IDMT or his plushies, and even compared himself to Birdie's groomer Maddie at some points. They broke up again on January 2nd, 2019 for the last time, but their fights with each other would not end there. In the early days of January 2019, an account under the name of posted to YouTube, showing a lot of these sexual DMs between Heimguts and Birdie, and a statement saying that neither party was in the right. This alternate account, which would turn out to be Birdie, would go on to paint it out as if the entire interaction was non-consensual, which was a bold-faced lie and easily disproved by Heimguts in the following days. Any points that could be made about Heim's drastic switch between hatred or love, or the unhinged comments inside, were obviously discarded in the face of a false allegation. Another thing worth adding is that Birdie would also start to transition during this time from female to male. Birdie has since stated that they always felt like a boy, but there's been a lot of speculation on whether this was done just to be in Heimguts' dating pool. There are messages of Birdie double backing on the decision and directly citing Heimguts, and even when Heim changed his mind about being straight, Birdie still planned to hide all the girly stuff in his room to better appeal to him. After suffering the ultimate betrayal, quote unquote, Birdie's opinion of Heimguts was completely against him. His partner replacement was himself, or rather a voice in his head named Carol, who he said he was dating. Yes, this is a real thing that happened. Interestingly, the OCs that he made of Carol look suspiciously like how he drew Heimguts in real life, but don't think about that too much. Birdie also made a new channel named Chrysophobia, which means a phobia for the colour orange, obviously alluding to Heimguts' character being orange primarily. Birdie's channels would become a place for him airing out his issues through vents made about Heim, Dodgejust, and others he fought with. This contained everything from vents about Heim for months straight, to drawing himself as the villains of World War II, and making violent animations about MLP characters because Heim liked MLP. It's during this time that Birdie began to shift the narrative into him actually being a victim of Heim. Tons of these vents were basically conveying this issue, and again, please just see for yourself from the evidence provided. Birdie would also start talking to a new person by the name of Purple, who he may have had a relationship with depending on who you believe. Purple would later leak their DMs after he hacked Birdie's account with Dodgejust and Heimguts, and Heim would also send Birdie a number of Discord friend requests with cryptic and threatening messages in the names. However, it's worth noting that this stuff was only for a couple of months, and Birdie's vents about Heim continued long after that. It was also around this point that Birdie dated another person by the name of Toxie, or Temiskulls, not to be confused with Toxikai. Toxie was 12 when her and Birdie entered another sort of relationship in mid-2019, after Toxie had gotten in contact with Birdie as a fan willing to defend him. For clarification, Birdie was 14 at this point. During their relationship, Toxie claims that they talked about her being a lolly bean, doing sexual roleplays with childish characters, and Birdie saying that he loved how sweet and pure they were, something allegedly repeated with further relationships.
Isn't this considered, cheese pizza or some shit? Isn't all this shit considered cheese pizza? Because, they're role-playing sexual things to each other, and because this is or is this just some weird ass fucking internet shit? I know what lolly is. No, because this is, oh my god.
Birdie would later claim that Toxie, the 12-year-old, groomed him, the 14-year-old, and also forced him into roleplay and being bisexual, which sounds absurd. Not the last time that he'll accuse a younger person of grooming him. Also around this time, because there's no other place.
That's what you're talking about, Volt. You know, a younger person being groomed, but that type of shit, I'm already fucking up. Anyways, like, this is what happens when you don't have friends in real life. No one to hang out with, no one to party with. Just sit in your room online every day talking to randos, doing odd sexual role plays. I don't know, man.
Place I can put this in the script. Birdie said that if his sister was and murdered and he let it happen, he wouldn't feel guilt for it. So yeah, just more great upstanding citizen behavior. During the summer of 2019, Birdie would have his internet shut off by his parents. We don't know much about Birdie.
Why couldn't you have done that before? Why the fuck couldn't you have done that before? You could have done that like 2 years ago. You could have done that shit years ago. You could have. Better late than never, I guess.
Birdie's time away, or even why it specifically happened, but we do know that he returned around October 2019. So enter Birdie's next partner, Goat Kato. 6 years ago, Goat Kato was far from how they're known today, and were yet another animation meme tween. They had gotten a lot of flack after pushing ultimately false allegations against another YouTube animator known as Sashley. But Goat's drama with Sashley is what brought them closer to Birdie, who had befriended them prior after people had labelled them as a Birdie clone. Birdie would give Goat a lot of advice during the backlash, as well as just being there as a friend. And he also decided to break up with the voice in his head as things progressed. Eventually, this would turn into a relationship. Much like many of Birdie's relationships, his one with Goat Kato started well. It was fitted with a healthy dose of Heimgut's hatred, as always, thanks to multiple raids from Goat and Birdie's Discord server directed by them. But Goat Kato wasn't really much into the raids because they hadn't got the history that Birdie had with Heim, and even apologized to Heim directly after one of the raids. On the 19th of November 2019, Birdie's server conducted another raid, this time on Heimgut's stream. A fair few people were up for it, and Birdie encouraged them to raise hell, which they did. But Goat wasn't really down for this. They felt that Heim was still human, and people should just let him be. And this unique idea of not wanting to raid someone's stream sent Birdie into a complete mental breakdown that forever fractured the relationship. This incident was only indicative of a growing issue within Goat Kato and Birdie's relationship. Throughout their conversations, Birdie would continue to rant and rave about Heimguts, and when Goat had their own issues, Birdie wasn't there to listen at all. All this continued to upset Goat, along with further accounts made by Birdie specifically to harass Heimguts, and they broke the relationship on November 30th. Goat would send Birdie a polite paragraph about how they felt Birdie was just obsessing over Heim and how that just didn't sit right with them. Birdie then woke up, delivered a fairly childish response, and made the entire breakup public with an animation. According to Birdie, Goat Kato was now a Heimgut White Knight secret agent the entire time, and he didn't even love them anyways, and he knew they'd eventually break up, which seemed particularly hurtful to Goat, who didn't express any emotional hatred, just wanted Birdie to change and didn't want to deal with all the drama. Eventually this would push Goat away to Heim's side, and Birdie and Goat would fight on and off for the next year or so. It was during Birdie's relationship with Goat Kato that he was apparently arrested again, this time after a violent fight with his parents. Much like many other things with Birdie, the legitimacy of this arrest has been questioned to this day. At the time, Birdie said that his parents saw him having a playful fight with his little brother, and just took it way too seriously. However, he's since changed his story to say that his parents sent his little brother to rip up his art. Birdie was then trying to stop him, and the fight ensued from there. Birdie was apparently arrested and spent a night in custody. Despite doubts about who was correct in the argument, how Birdie was hiding from the police with a heavy laptop in hand, no online record whatsoever, and how the punishment didn't match what happened here, based on past offences.
Dude, Toastify, what's up
Near
with,
the end of 2019,
what's up with that creepy ass shit, bro? Like, don't do that. What's wrong with you, man?
Birdie entered another relationship with a user known as Julian, and their relationship would persist throughout most of 2020. It's at this point that the harassment towards Heimguts reached its absolute peak, through death threats and alt accounts. There were many messages containing graphic discussion of Heim's body, and messages about wanting to torture Heimguts for several months. Birdie
guess he likes the horror genre. Of course he does. Fucking Chris. There's so many things to say about Birdie, man. I did not even know about all this shit.
He would also say he was intentionally trying to use the Birdie name to subtly manipulate Haim's emotions, and in around late 2019, posted events which traced over nudes that Heimgutz had sent him when he was 13. Birdie's...
That's CP. That's CP, man. No, that is CP. I knew it. I knew I wasn't crazy when I said it. That's CP. That is CP, man. That's cheese pizza. That right there is cheese pizza. Holy shit.
Hateful obsession with Haim would extend to whatever he liked publicly. When he posted a drawing based on the anime Panty and Stocking, Birdie would post a drawing killing the characters. Same thing with My Little Pony, like we mentioned before. In fact, there was an entire series of drama and harassment because Heimgutz posted about the fictional character Rayman, and that infuriated Birdie because he was a fan of Rayman, which inspired a whole lot of harassment. Birdie would also start remaking both Torturing Birdie and I Dropped My Tortilla. This is probably not even an extensive list of everything that Birdie did. Keep in mind that as far as we know, Haim only went near Birdie's level of harassment once, and that was in early 2019 when he would send friend requests with cryptic messages associated with a hack. But we're comparing Haim's instances over 3 months to Birdie doing it for around 2 years. Birdie can state that he's the victim of Haim and all this was the public being misled, but it's hard to believe that when he was actively also misleading the public. Him and his friends doxed Heimgutz and spammed his name anywhere they could. And then Birdie posted a DeviantArt statement straight up lying and saying that he wasn't doxing Haim, and it was so tiring having to deal with these false statements. Birdie's relationship with Julian was going fairly well for about the first half of the year, but things began to take a change when Birdie introduced another person to this relationship known as Jay. Julian's issues against Birdie began to rack up. He didn't feel particularly good about opening up his relationship to be polyamorous, and as time went on, he began to feel like the neglected party. There was even an entire period where Julian felt Birdie would just use him for sexual purposes, when he was far more interested in Jay romantically. So why wouldn't he do the sexual stuff with Jay? Well, Jay wasn't particularly interested in it at all, and at numerous points when Jay didn't want to do Discord ERP, Birdie would get depressed and make several vents about it. A bit overdramatic, I'd say, but hey, we're talking about Discord ERP, that seems about right. After a number of personal arguments, Birdie and Julian would break up in late 2020. Julian would then get into more petty back and forth with Birdie, and after an incident in which Birdie faked his death to Julian as a prank, Julian decided to leak a bunch of stuff from his relationship with Birdie. The worst of these leaks was, of course, the ferret incident, where the public finally found out that Birdie tried to fuck his ferret. It was mentioned in
Also, he tried to fuck his ferret, not actually. I didn't even go through with it. I was so ashamed. I don't abuse animal. It was a one-time thing, which is, like I said, I have no fucking idea why I did that. Oh my fucking god.
in these DMs whilst both people were revealing their biggest secrets, and its publication caused a lot of backlash. Birdie responded by confirming the secret was real, it did happen, he deeply regretted it, and it affected his life horribly. But it's at this point where we're gonna pause. While Birdie can say that the incident with his ferret Chara was affected by him being groomed by a 30-year-old man, that cannot be applied for his treatment of his ferret overall. Sexual stuff completely aside, valid questions were raised about Birdie as a pet owner. Birdie had stated before that Chara was fairly unhealthy because of his family's financial status, but I'm pretty sure having maggots and fly eggs in your ferret's cage indicates a lot more than just finances. It does not cost that much to just clean a cage, and if there are so many flies in your room with you and your...
Yeah, exactly, just clean the cage. Fucking Dumb.
ferret that you start constantly drawing yourself surrounded by them, something's up. Speaking of Chara's cage, people speculated that it was also too small for her size, and poor diet and lack of nutrients may have been leading to her fur constantly changing and degrading in colour. It began to turn lighter, her tail fur wasn't growing back, she was losing a lot of her brown markings. How about Birdie talking about petting his ferret and feeling her ribs, or saying that she always pooped when Birdie gave her baths, or a picture of Birdie throwing his ferret? As far as we know,
Oh my god. Birdie doing what to it? Yeah, Birdie, you need to be absolutely getting the shit. So, mostly a ferret abuser. And he kept the ashes of his pet ferret. Fucking Christ, man. Fucking Christ.
no, very little action was taken in response to any of these claims. There was some in June 2019 where Birdie finally cleaned Chara's cage, gave her some food and vitamins, and took her out of the cage. But flip forward to around 6 months on, and Birdie hadn't let Chara out of the cage since then. Chara the ferret died in November 2022, and was cremated with her ashes being put into an urn. We have no idea how Chara was treated beyond the window into it that we have, but if Birdie accidentally leaving her ashes behind after moving out of someone's house is anything to go by, it probably wasn't that good. Returning to late 2021, Birdie and Julian would continue to fight over the next few months. At some point, Birdie was in a group chat and made fun of Julian by describing as nudes. In response, Julian just straight up leaked Birdie's nudes. Birdie would go on his server and post
See, leaking his what? Again, CP, where's the parents? Nobody's talking to authorities or any of this shit. That is strictly illegal. What the fuck is wrong with these people, man? Oh my god.
a bunch of very unhinged messages and threats towards Julian. Julian would then make several accounts to spam Birdie's social.
Hold on. Julian, I hope a Peter makes you rape your cats and then force you to draw scat art and then they leak it. This is why young people shouldn't have social media. Yeah. But mostly, this is what happens when you don't have in real life friends. And your weak-ass parents not doing anything of the sort to prevent this type of shit from happening. Like, this type of shit just cannot. Like, look at all this shit. Like, this thing is. Oh my god.
Whilst this was going on, Birdie was still dating Jay, and their relationship is shown through the volume of art he made about it, cataloguing every month, as well as the plushies and the pony art. However, what really happened is up in the air. After getting out of the relationship, Jay would accuse Birdie of abuse. Jay said that Birdie would isolate them from their interests, friends, and had to cut off his personality and become a different person, all to please Birdie. Birdie has since stated that his breakup with Jay was one of the worst experiences of his life, and that it sent him into another psychotic break. But Birdie has also said that he feels super bad for how he was gross to Jay. For the rest of the year, Birdie would post more depressed art about Jay and how he was still attracted to him, which definitely made Jay feel weird. In fact, at some point later during 2021, Birdie also attempted to unironically make a love potion spell from TikTok so that Jay would get back together with him. On May 11th, 2021, Birdie entered his next relationship with someone known as Draggy, which lasted a total of 4 days. Draggy was around 13 years old when he and Birdie, a 16-year-old, began dating, although they had been friends prior and would continue to be friends for a bit after. From this relationship came the absolute gem from Birdie. I think you're pretty mature for your age. That's one of the reasons I've considered you as a viable option for a partner. You don't seem like the kind of person who would give up when things get hard. Birdie would bring up several topics and videos that a lot of people agree should not be discussed with a 13-year-old. This includes Birdie talking about and sending NSFW, discussing a dream about SA, discussing NSFW titles on videos, and sending uncensored rape porn in a group chat with Draggy.
What the fuck? Uncensored what porn? Yeah, nah. Birdie needs to be sent into some fucking asylum or some shit. Holy shit, dude. Why is he in so many relationships? I don't even know my damn self, Freedom.
Following the short relationship, Birdie said that he broke it off because he didn't want to hurt Draggy, and that he was selfish and decided to try dating Draggy whilst he was in a wrong state of mind. He then denied that he said he ever felt guilty for the relationship, and has since accused Draggy of being a sadistic attention seeker who made the decision to date him. Many people who have since learned of this incident have accused Birdie of grooming, and I'm not surprised people have this view, nor do I really blame them for coming to such a conclusion. The fact that Birdie has since responded, saying that Draggy, a 13-year-old, actually groomed him instead, is such a stupid argument that has just strengthened the case against him. Months before, Birdie also befriended another 13-year-old named Nessa whilst he was 16, and without even asking for their age, he sent them mangled NSFW of the girls from Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh my god, Birdie, you are a fucking despicable piece of fucking human shit. Oh my god.
After he learnt of their age, Birdie continued to talk about SH and was friends with them as recently as 2023, where they were still talking about sexual topics. During 2021, a familiar face had also reared its head, someone who you might recognise by the name of Cindybear03. Much like Birdie, Cindybear had started as a young Sans fangirl making animations. This is hinted at in her old name, Scootaloo Loves Sans. Unlike Birdie, Cindy had had nowhere near as much drama and seemed to be a genuinely talented artist who was going to make it beyond the pit of dregs in the animation meme community.
Well, that didn't fucking happen because she's a groomer.
Cindy and Birdie had an on and off friendship throughout the years, mostly from Cindy desperately trying to be friends with Birdie. During 2020 and 2021, Cindy would start to have a crush on Birdie, made a plushie of his character, and drew several pieces of art, including an entire hand-drawn comic about Birdie essaying her. This was all very weird to the public, considering that she was in a relationship with someone else at the time, and also everyone saw Birdie as a psychotic freak who had harmed so many people, so there was a significant amount of backlash towards Cindy. She would later make a video clarifying she didn't support Birdie's most egregious actions, and was even against him doxing Heimgoods, but felt that Birdie was still young and had a lot to learn. But little did she know that Birdie would reach new lows mere days later. During May of 2021, Birdie would join an online group known as DICE. Often described as a cult, DICE was essentially an online group of kids dedicated to bringing the worst out of each other, a Discord server hierarchy numbering in hundreds of members, where people were often encouraged to harm themselves, harm others, and indulge in degeneracy. The group began with its creator and leader, Mortis, a 15-year-old from Ireland that created DICE as a splinter off of another larger group.
He's a fucking bigger. I'm glad he's dead. Discord should be banned.
Group named Trash Cult. Mortis was obsessed with Birdie during 2020 and 2021, even being one of his many impersonators, and it was during May 2021 that they became friends despite her many disgusting actions.
I saw that one picture of you, I guess, doing your dog. What happened with that? Is that
what?
You, I guess, doing your dog? What happened with that?
Yeah, mental asylum. Mental asylum. Sent him into a mental asylum. What do you mean, fucking your dog? Mental asylum.
Is that, like, real legit shit?
Well, I haven't done it for, like, years.
So, you do admit to doing it?
Yeah, I do. Well,
mental asylum.
Sometimes when I look at my dog, I just feel bad. I don't know. It makes me feel gross.
I stream on Discord, chill. I'm sorry, but like, why does every controversy start with Discord, bro? Almost everything. I don't know.
But at the same time, I still like that sort of stuff.
The group itself has a far bigger and more disgusting history that will not be discussed in this, as we're only going to take a look at Birdie's involvement. And you might be surprised because it's a lot more than Birdie lets on. To this day, Birdie has said that he was in a bad mental state when he went into this cult, and that he was only there for around 2 weeks, which is technically true, but his impact whilst in DICE is a lot more than he lets on to this day. Earlier this year, an account by the name of Cherry came out with screenshots accusing Birdie, who was 16, of being in group chats with 12-year-olds and encouraging them to SH. This included pictures, tips on how to do it effectively, and videos. Another account by the name of Edward expressed that Birdie joining the server and talking about it publicly had only led more people to join the server and get harmed themselves. Related to this as well, a year after leaving DICE, so in 2022, Purple and Draggy would operate a Sting account posing as an 11-year-old girl named Olive, trying to ensnare Birdie as a pedo. What they did get is Birdie asking someone they believe to be an 11-year-old that they should still draw gore and cannibalism art. There is simply no excuse for the fact that Birdie was exposing this stuff directly to people much younger than him, and the fact that it was being normalized when Birdie came back as an adult just adds to this. Following his involvement with DICE, Birdie would mostly leave the public eye for the next 3 years, due to intervention from his parents after one of Birdie's siblings had an internet addiction. Ironic considering I imagine Birdie would be the prime example when looking for that, but sure, okay. Now, a lot of the information in this segment mainly comes from Birdie's video I'm Back, that explains his side of everything. So again, take it with a pinch of salt, we don't have much of the other side. By the time that Birdie had broken up with Jay, he says that he began to deteriorate. He notes that his parents once swarmed into the basement and yelled through the door of his bedroom for an hour whilst he was hiding, saying that Birdie was lazy and faking depression to be a victim. After that, they cut off the internet, which led to another psychotic break for months. Birdie would later be diagnosed with psychosis or schizospec in September 2023. It's still unclear, I don't know which one. On one instance, Birdie claimed that he tried to end it all, and his parents refused to give medical attention and threatened to call the police because he was threatening them to take him to the hospital. Birdie eventually got his internet back through loopholes and decided to finally start studying for a job. But at the beginning of
Fucking Christ. Chronically. Terminally online. Terminally.
of 2023, his parents just decided to randomly kick him out as he was 18 now. No reason provided than just his age, according to Birdie. So he then had to go live with his grandma. Now initially his grandma was accepting of him, but issues arose because Birdie wouldn't wake up to go to school on his own or do his homework himself at age 18. There's a plethora of disorders cited along this, including an undiagnosed heart condition, but some of these issues seem totally on Birdie. At one point he talks about the fact that he had to just bring in a laptop to school and do his work on the corner. But if he forgot to bring his laptop, he wouldn't be able to do anything. He paints himself as the victim in this and the staff neglecting him, but I just have to ask, who on earth forgets to bring a heavy-ass laptop, especially when it's the one thing they need to bring?
Fucking crazy, bro. Like, you just say that you're lazy. Just say that you're lazy. That's it.
Over time, Birdie's grandma started to get sick of him and became more aggressive. She accused him of being manipulative, Birdie said she was being verbally abusive, and this led to Birdie getting kicked out and staying at a homeless shelter. During a stay at the homeless shelter, this was also apparently hell on earth, as the water was dirty and people swatted and pizza bombed the place. Birdie was then picked up from the shelter by his nana and lived in her house with his husband. He got a room in their garage, but apparently it turns out his nana and her husband were also abusive to Birdie. They all had fights with each other before he went back to the homeless shelter and then back to his parents' house. This is despite the fact his nana offered him her beach house to live in, which I imagine most people who were homeless would grasp that opportunity at the first time of asking.
Beach house?
Now you may be thinking, why didn't Birdie just go to a friend's house, sleep over on the sofa? And to be fair, an attempt was made, but its existence has only brought more accusations against Birdie.
Oh boy.
As soon as Birdie got his internet back in 2022 through undisclosed loopholes, he was in communications with his internet friends. Keep in mind he had no IRL friends at 16, so his closest friend was Refixed, or the Maryland guy as he's known by others. Refix was a close friend who had offered to house Birdie in their home in Maryland. However, in Birdie's I'm Back video, Birdie goes on to accuse Refix of emotional abuse, saying he bribed them with gifts and held them above his head as manipulation. Refix would then block him just as he was ready to leave for Maryland and went on to harass Birdie, leaking artwork and vents and causing another psychotic break and insane paranoia. Unsurprisingly, this has since been contested by Refix, who posted his own side on Twitter with more evidence to add. During their friendship, Refix kind of played the role of being Birdie's wrangler, holding him back. In fact, he apparently was the person who got Birdie out of dice. Per his side, he was a completely providing friend who was constantly stressed by Birdie's overdependence on him. He consistently felt that he was responsible for Birdie's life, and him changing his profile picture to make it seem like it was ending only added to the stress. At some points, Refix felt like he was the reason. The DM shown paint out Birdie as an obsessive partner of sorts, even if they weren't technically in a relationship. There was a need to constantly talk, and when Refix did something else for a few hours, Birdie would start to melt down. He would go on to isolate Refix from his friends, and after their relationship, would make YouTube accounts to harass him. As for Refix's harassment, it seems there was a bit more beyond the cropped screenshot, as Birdie had sent someone to forward a cruel message to him on Facebook Messenger. Then he replied asking to leave him alone, and Birdie framed it as him just being attacked out of nowhere. With seemingly nowhere to go, the bridge burned with Refix, and not looking good with anyone in his family, Birdie really needed a Hail Mary to keep them off the streets, or away from his nana's beach house, and one came down from Missouri to Washington.
Keyword: beach house. Hold on. Y'all wanna know what a beach house look like? This is a beach house. He doesn't want to live in this. He doesn't want to live in shit like this. Beach house. Beach house. Beach house. He doesn't want to live in no fucking beach house. That's crazy work, man.
In the form of CinnyBear03. Birdie and Cinny had been talking with each other and rekindling their friendship, and after being left with no options, Birdie went to live with Cinny. The two drove back to Missouri and cuddled with each other on the first night watching videos. For now, it seemed like Birdie had finally found a home where they could feel safe inside. But having moved so far, it would take a while for Birdie to set his new life up. In the meantime, his identity was obscured, and he was only referred to as Jimmy by CinnyBear whilst on stream, for example. Birdie's grand return came on April 14th, 2024. This video, titled I'm Back, aims to be the be-all end-all of Birdie drama videos. However, it's filled with a lot of obscuration and misinformation. Standout points include Birdie calling Kitty Dog a groomer when he was 12 and she was 14, and then saying that his relationship with Draggy, when he was 16 and Draggy was 13, was actually not grooming because he was in a lesser state of mind that time.
Now, because it's genuinely traumatic for me, but I will include some screenshots in this section as I elaborate. Anyways, this shouldn't have been drama in the first place, but Kitty Dog encouraged me to make drawings like those, and that's why they exist. I know a few of you are probably going to say this as some sort of counter-argument, so I'd like to acknowledge it. The age gap wasn't, like, huge. I was 12 and she was 14, but, like, let's not get caught up in the logistics of grooming. I am not misusing the word. I can confidently say that this is what this was. There was a huge power dynamic. Kitty Dog was aware of the power she had over me, being a massive creator that I looked up to, and I was not old enough to consent to these things. I was 12. Another thing to bring into consideration is that apparently Kitty Dog was also being groomed during this time period, but this still doesn't excuse her behavior. Especially when we consider COCSA to be a trauma response, which stands for Child on Child Sexual Abuse. Exactly 5 days after...
Is that not cheap? I don't get it.
Said breakup, I was asked out by my former friend Draggy, who was 13. I was 16, and it was my responsibility as the older person to turn them down. But because of the mental state I was...
But... Keyword... But...
I was unable to make the right decision. They were entirely aware of the mental state I was in. I addressed my worries with us dating, but they insisted that they wanted to date me, so I agreed.
Of course you did.
Our relationship lasted less than a week, and nothing of a romantic or sexual nature happened at all. You can also see several instances of me establishing with them that I was not in the right state of mind to be making any proper decisions. But despite the sheer amount of times I said I wasn't in the right state of mind, they continued to pursue me anyways, which, I mean, what can I say? They were 13. Again, it was my responsibility to turn them down, which I would have done if I was, like, lucid. But in all honesty, I think I was taken advantage of.
See guys, I didn't groom Draggy because I was mentally all gone, not on the right state of mind. But that doesn't apply to Kitty Dog, even though she was being groomed at the time. The double standard is incredibly blatant and malicious. He also addresses the Heimgut situation and ultimately apologizes, but in this segment he tries to make an equivalence by showing a period of harassment that Heim did for a couple of months, as opposed to Birdie's 3 years straight of harassment. And also, let's play Birdie's admission statement here.
I would like to take accountability for my behavior towards him. When I was 12 to 15 years old, I had an intense obsession with him, which included me archiving all of his art and making videos about him constantly, and sexualizing him, stealing his OCs, borderline stalking him, doxing him, and encouraging harassment of him. This is something that I believe that I genuinely needed to be held accountable for, and thank you to all of you who did, but the harassment that I received because of this was not okay.
Having seen the context and everything that went on here, do you think the statement with no screenshots is representative of what really happened? I mean, he still makes a heavy implication that his stuff with Heimgut in 2018 was non-consensual, despite the fact that was easily disproven.
Malachi managed to get my entire audience on his side for a long time while manipulating me and gaslighting me for several years. We dated 8 times, I believe, and he took advantage of me sexually. He created an alt account so that he could interact with me. Weirdly enough, while taking advantage of me...
This is exactly why a video like this had to be made that looked at Birdie's past. He is still lying about this. The fact that a video about Birdie's past wasn't made before gave Birdie the opportunity to slither out of his own past. I would not be covering what a 14-year-old was doing online if Birdie wasn't being openly and verifiably dishonest about what happened to everyone. This entire video is...
Just inclined of just telling the truth, man. Just always have to like mix some shit up just to make yourself a better person, or make yourself like a little less bad. Like you just can't write this shit, man.
Seems to be symptomatic of how Birdie will overextend on his claims against someone to make them look worse, essentially exaggerating and lying and adding more and more on top as long as he can get away with it. He could have just left it at Kitty Dog may be uncomfortable during New Year's, something that he has evidence for. But no, he goes above and beyond and says they're a groomer, without realizing these same standards could be applied to him. Another thing worth addressing is the excuse that, well, I was psychotic. You see Birdie using this in the video a couple of times, especially with the Draggy segment, and you see a lot of Birdie fans using this as a defense. In fact, some of them may have already commented it before watching the video. Here's the thing. We're still unclear on what Birdie is diagnosed with. I'm not a psychologist, and I doubt you are either. So all we can see is that we have no idea what Birdie actually has. Birdie says in this video that he was diagnosed with psychosis both back when he was 14 and in September 2023, except he's not sure which disorder it actually is, so he just calls it psychosis. And when he was diagnosed when he was 14, he was actively also lying to his therapist, and complaining his therapist wouldn't diagnose him properly, and by his therapist, he means his school counsellor. You see what I mean? Was I lazy going to school? Well, I'll have you know I have an undiagnosed heart condition as well. What is the process of Birdie even finding these symptoms?
I realized I lined up behaviors in my head, and I thought, why, this isn't something a normal person would do. Normal people don't have these thought processes, what's going on? And so, I tried to look into it, and I'm not going to tell you what disorder it is, but I have another mental disorder that I match all of the criteria, and it's like, it's one of those...
Like I said, just making diagnoses of mental things that he has, even though that he has not been diagnosed with it, because it matches what he has. It's just, you can't diagnose yourself with something just because it matches what you like. Like people might say that I have like ADHD because it matches of how I react or how I talk or whatever the fuck. But I'm not diagnosed with ADHD. So it's like you just can't make up shit. Like you're just painting yourself a fucking victim. Like it's just crazy, man.
evil abusers, disorders, and
This is my point. None of us are professionals, and we're dealing with a serial liar who's still continuing to lie. We don't know what to believe, so don't take Birdie's word without some sort of evidence. You've seen throughout this video that it's happened before. All I'm saying is look before you leap. After Birdie's I'm Back video, his streak of not addressing drama would last 2 days, when he did a collab with his friend Aggress, making a meme post over the Borderline 12, which for those unaware is a school shooting memorial. Birdie would get a ton of backlash on it, and responded by apologizing multiple times, saying he didn't know and blaming his autism. Some would say a pattern was beginning to re-emerge. During July 2024, whilst playing on the game Ponytown with a fan, Birdie also came across Jay and Julian and had a slap fight with them. It's also worth noting that since his comeback, the art he posted was NSFW artwork that was derivative of what he had made of him and Jay. A lot of the audience of the I'm Back video, many of them also being kids during these past situations, decided to take blame for their actions and applauded and supported Birdie. Even with a video that has at least 2 glaring issues that don't even need context to poke holes in, Birdie's diehard audience came back quickly. Everyone felt that it was time to move on and give Birdie a big second chance. However, Birdie's I'm Back video had gotten over 600,000 views, and gathered the attention of a fair few people outside the animation meme community who had no idea of any of the history. One of them, Deadwing Dork, made a 5-hour stream basically making fun of the entire video and Birdie's life. In response, Cinnybear jumped to Birdie's defense and posted a 2-part video numbering multiple hours, in which he fought against every part of Deadwing's points. Whilst the details of this are probably for another time, Cindybear's loyalty to Birdie seemed incredible. Some people would see her apparent stress as she was working 2 jobs to stay financially stable, whilst Birdie did not work and just stayed home all day and collected benefits.
And freeload, pretty much. Living rent-free.
He even needed Cindy to be his caretaker. He had to be asked to split the rent and still didn't fully agree at first. And when Cindy came home, she'd find him just in bed or drawing. Birdie's over-reliance on Cindy meant that if she suddenly lost everything, that would be a death blow to his current situation. And as fate would have it, that's what happened. Over a number of days in mid-September 2024, 3 Google documents were published regarding Cindybear. Document 1 was around Cindy's strange sexual behaviour around various minors, whilst Document 3 talked about Cindy's treatment of a former partner. But Document 2 was the most egregious, detailing the experiences of a 14-year-old who accused Cindy of grooming them while she was 21. Whilst there wasn't a relationship, so to say, Cindy showed this minor incredible amounts of NSFW for 6 months straight. She encouraged the minor to do the same and got upset when they didn't. Cindy even sent an entire hand-drawn essay comic. Some things never change, I guess. At the time of the document's release, Birdie and Cindy were on vacation. It was only when they came back and looked at the evidence that the ball started to roll. Cindy would post a video apologizing for what she did and saying that she was a groomer. Then, the next day, Birdie posted a video confirming that Cindy was a groomer. This video, which was secretly recorded while Cindy was in the other room, talks about the situation as Birdie claims he had no idea it was ever going on. He also claims that Cindy would essay him, grabbing various parts of his body or poking them as a joke, even though he said no. It's worth noting Cindy would deny these claims, saying it was all consensual and there was no indication of discomfort. Alongside this video, Birdie also started a GoFundMe for moving elsewhere and escaping, as the benefits were no longer coming in for him. The GoFundMe would reach its goal of $10,000.
This shit pisses me the fuck off. It's the fact that he didn't even use the 10,000. I already talked about this. I'm not talking about it again.
In a matter of days, and even went above, reaching $11,000. Even after everything Birdie had said and done and all the controversies, he still had a fan base that was willing to donate so much to essentially save his living situation. To me though, it's weird there weren't more questions raised about Birdie's knowledge of Cindybear's grooming. Knowing someone who turns out to be a pedo is one thing, but being in the same house with them for months, sleeping in the next room or even in the same bed, that's another issue entirely. There wouldn't have even been a time where Birdie was out of work, so their schedules wouldn't have conflicted that much. He was home the entire time. Around this time, Birdie would get into a call with Queen, Cindy's IRL friend that Birdie had recently met and became close with. They started to become really good friends, and Birdie would eventually stay over at her house for some time. A few days later, Cindy would post another response to the situation, stating that Birdie and others had coerced her to admit that she was a groomer. She responds saying that the sexual themes she discussed with the kid weren't actually that sexual, which is just a blatant lie, but I mean, how else could you even defend this? This is all for another time though, because this video led up to the fight between Birdie and Cindybear over the cat. Birdie had recently gotten a cat to take care of, but during his fight with Cinnabear and Birdie getting away, Cinny apparently stole his cat, according to Birdie. In response, he broke into Cinnabear's house after this and left a white hat with the words groom on it. Cinny would then respond to Birdie, saying that the cat wasn't with him or with Birdie. It was with Queen. Cinny was only asking for the cat back because no one else was in the position to take care of it. And legally, the cats were in Cinny's name because Birdie didn't want to use his dead name to get them. When he broke into Cinny's house to leave the groom hat, he stole the cat he was emotionally tied to and took it with him. Eventually, Queen ended up as the owner of the cat, which was probably the best outcome we got. But Birdie now had to explain himself. He was under fire for posting lies and had possibly given a groomer a W. Birdie went on Twitter and explained that the accusation from Cinny were all false and meant to shift the attention away from her. But the snowball was already rolling down the hill, and people were really starting to look into what Birdie had been up to. Days earlier, Birdie had posted art of him dressed as a character from the animator Zontan, known for his sexual drawings of underage characters aged up to be adults. Birdie claimed to have no idea who Zontan even was, but that was another lie as seen from this Discord message. Being caught out twice in a number of days isn't a good track record for anyone, and his response to the backlash being pill posting was only further indication of that.
I mean, just wild, dude.
Seeing the tides turn against him, Birdie decided to leave the internet, saying, "Okay, I'm sick of being this week's hot juicy drama and having the dehumanization and demonization of myself so widely normalized again. People are scraping the bottom of the barrel for rumors. I'm leaving for a bit. Everyone get your shit together. This is just like 2017. Time is a flat circle." But the new claims were nowhere near the bottom of the barrel. After such a storied history, so many apologies, so many promises to change that were taken at face value by Birdie's audience, that being then ripped up in front of their eyes would not go down well. It began with the Little Guy controversy, as people criticised Birdie's interactions with a 15-year-old fan of his known as Little Guy. Little Guy was obsessed with Birdie, and Birdie would comment on their posts positively, including ones they made with sexual elements. Birdie knew all too well from first-hand experience what obsession looks like, and was accused of indirectly enabling it by continuing to interact. This seems like a good time to also mention that Birdie would actually reply to people under the age of 16 on a 16+ post he made on his Twitter. You had literally one job, mate. This would spark a mass return of former characters from the Birdie drama, archival and A-loggers, all coming back to reinvestigate the entire Birdie situation. A ton of new evidence was found about old cases that completely recontextualized everything, especially to an audience that wasn't even that clued in on Birdie's history.
I mean, all Birdie has to do is just shut the fuck up at this point, man.
And discussing Birdie's modern day antics didn't bode well for him. It seemed as if Birdie was desperately using the $11,000 that were raised from the GoFundMe, spending it on moving apartments, getting away from the groomer who was assaulting him. At one point, he said he was even starving whilst at someone's house, and a friend got him DoorDash to help out. So when he was spotted spending copious amounts of money on My Little Pony merch, you can imagine the backlash from that. And the starvation at someone's house? Well, the house he was staying at had a fridge full of food, and Birdie was just a really picky eater.
Like, you couldn't just make yourself a little scrambled eggs or some shit? Like, you're that fucking lazy bitch?
All excuses and bringing up some disorder or the other were falling on deaf ears, especially when he was making fun of issues that he also had. See on Twitter, where he was gossiping about how messy Cinnabear's room was to make fun of her, but then came in pictures from Queen showing the mess in his room. Remember that one of these people worked 2 jobs, and the other sat in bed all day, drawing and sleeping. By then, a lot of the public opinion turned back against Birdie, after being more favourable to him after his return and the Cinnabear situation. By now, their goodwill had dried up. The story of Birdie tells a blend of greys that we rarely see at all. It's seeing the real-time story of a kid mistreated by their family but also prone to lash out, becoming a child of the internet and a victim to some awful stuff. But soon he was twisting the abhorrence onto others throughout his life, many of the people he's encountered and his own audience itself. It's uncomfortable because it never should have been broadcast. The fact that a 12-year-old was unmonitored online, having a completely massive career with a dedicated fan base, was always going to end badly. But origin stories and illnesses and disorders only go so far. Everyone has their own issues, but we all have to take responsibility for what we've done, and we do. Birdie has a trail of gross irresponsibility, being malicious and lying. Where do you draw the line between saying he's just a kid and condemning him for being legitimately malicious and manipulative? If I've taken anything away from this video, it's not just an indictment of Birdie. It's better seen as a reflection on much of the animation meme community and its depths. Birdie just happens to be the most severe case of its effects. It still is a place largely absent of parents or adults, a place where these creative kids come to vent about how the world has seemingly failed them. The detailed vents about their personal lives were only encouraged by kids who could relate, furthering personal publication and vulnerability. It's telling that most of the people who've been personally involved and victimized by Birdie have also turned out to be severely messed up in their own right, and documenting every single one of their actions on top of covering Birdie would double the length of this video. None of this diminishes from Birdie's actions towards them, and it certainly doesn't mean that these people were evil all along. A lot of this just comes down to the victim-turned-abuser cycle, and the animation meme community is an excellently morbid example. Maybe, just maybe, if someone had stepped in when Birdie was still young and recognized the signs of mental distress he was displaying, things could have turned out better. But
that's true, man. Horrible parents he got, man. Horrible fucking parents. Like, you should have... You should have done something more to make sure this type of shit doesn't happen, or make it even worse as, you know, as time goes by. But, you know, the parents wasn't really doing a lot, so he turns out to be a scumbag in every single different ways that it shouldn't.
But missed opportunities don't take away that Birdie has done some abhorrent stuff, and he should be held to account instead of being excused and swept for. His consistent cycle of lying, manipulation, playing the victim, disgusting harassment towards others, his weird interactions with minors, it's all out there. His actions shouldn't be downplayed, but his origins should be a warning light to parents and kids online. His story will continue as long as that delusion and his attachment to the internet continues. Birdie's case is a stark reminder that kids are far better off having normal jobs rather than becoming YouTubers. For all his perceived profits and supposed creative dream, a bird in the hand isn't worth more than a book. Thank you for watching, and
great video. I just wish he didn't put all that horror stuff on it, but yeah. Fucking crazy, man. Fucking crazy. All the stuff most of the stuff I didn't even fucking know. It's just wild ass stuff, man. Wild ass stuff. I guess it's going to be my turn to make a video on Birdie, because I have a lot of shit to say about him, and City Bear too. Like, there's a lot of shit I have to say to those motherfuckers, man. A lot of shit.